Hey everyone, how are you today? Hey, thanks for being here. I really appreciate you tuning in. We've got about another minute before I'll officially start. But I'm glad you're here and I really appreciate you tuning in. So let's just wait one more minute before we get started. Let everybody get logged on since 11:30 Eastern time is our official start. How's your Thursday so far, everyone? All right, let's get started. Hey, welcome everyone who's tuning in, and thank you for being here with me today. I hope you find the session helpful. I'm Libby V, nonprofit champion and founder of Libby V and Associates. And through visioning, theory of change work, leadership coaching, fundraising support, and organizational and board development, our nonprofit leader clients successfully raise more money and have more impact, and they get more efficient and effective with what they do. But look, not all nonprofits can afford to hire a consultant. So I created the Nonprofit Coffee Talk in conjunction with my project manager, Ariel Dotson, as a way to provide great content and helpful information to as many nonprofit people as I can. So I hope you find it useful. Please feel free to suggest other topics that you would like to see. And if you want to connect with me, please do that by emailing me at libbyv@libbyv.com. Pretty simple. Um, Today, we're going to pivot a little bit. My guest did not make it on today. I'm hoping that everything is okay with her. But since she did not make it on today, we'll reschedule her. And I thought I would just provide a little information that is timely and that I hope that you will find useful. So I'm assuming that many of you are thinking about maybe even planning or already planning an end of year appeal this year. So, this is a good time of year to get that going. And so, with that in mind, I thought I would just walk you through sort of a timeline to get yourself ready to launch a really robust end of year appeal. So, if you're okay with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started. If you have any questions, please post them and I'll do my best. Oh, hi, Sheri. Sheri's here. Okay, Sheri, so I need you to log into StreamYard. I am going to post the link for you. Oh, that's great. We will get you on here and we'll pivot and do the end of year timeline soon. So sorry about that, Sheri. I'm sorry for the glitch. I just emailed you not too long ago with the link. I wonder if you could go into your inbox and check and see if you got that email. It could be in your um, spam folder if you haven't gotten emails from us before. In fact, that could be where all our emails went to you. So I'm so sorry about that. All right, Sheri, let's get you on here. While we're waiting for Sheri, let me just go ahead and give you just a couple of things to be thinking about early on. Sheri, let me know that you're headed in our way, and we will hold up for you. So glad that you're able to make it on. I was worried about you, so let's see if I can. I'm going to send you an invite right now. I bet you guys can see my little dog wandering around. Sheri, I'm going to email you this link right now. You have to go into StreamYard. So I'm sending you this link via email, and you should be able to just click on that, and then I will see you in StreamYard. Yeah, you can't go through LinkedIn or Facebook Live. We're using StreamYard to stream this, so you have to come in on StreamYard. So hopefully you'll get that link and be good to go. All right. While Sheri's getting in here, I'll tell you what you should be doing to get geared up for your end of year appeal. You should be, if you had an end of year appeal last year or the year before that, or a couple years ago, you should be looking at your results and seeing what you achieved. And not just as far as money raised, but did you gain any new donors? Did you gain any new monthly and or otherwise recurring donors? Did some of your past donors who were inactive get active again? Okay. Sheri, come in on this link. I am putting the link right here. Hopefully it'll come to you in on LinkedIn. Let's see. Sheri, go to your email and get logged on that way. Let me see if I can send you a message right on here. I'm going to send it right on LinkedIn. There's the StreamYard link for you. Okay, Sheri, you should be able to just click on that link and join on StreamYard. I'll see you come up on my StreamYard page here in just a minute. Sorry, everyone. Hang in there with us. We're almost there. Glitches for sure. I'll have to talk with my team and make sure that they confirm that our guests get the StreamYard login. So sorry about that. That is my fault, our fault that you didn't have that. All right. Let me delete that comment. All right. So hopefully you are, hopefully you are logging on, Sheri, and we'll have a little bit of time to chat before our time is up today. So sorry everyone for the glitches again. And hopefully we can get going here and get Sheri on. If not, we'll just regroup for another time, because Sheri, you have so much good stuff to share with us today, all about measurement and why organizations need to be measuring their outcomes and paying attention to those, and how and what should they pay attention to, and what are best practices for nonprofits as far as measuring impact and all those things. So I'm really excited to hear all the good stuff you have to share. So if you can't make it in, we're gonna regroup and reschedule you, Sheri. Okay. No worries about that. All right, so let me keep going here until Sheri gets in here. All right, so you're going to look back at past appeals. Then you're going to set some goals for this year. So again, that can be a lot of things. It doesn't just have to be about the number of the amount of money that you raise with your year-end appeal, although that's one goal to set for sure. But you can also be in an acquisition mode, and you might want to acquire or attract some new people. And even if they don't donate yet, just the fact that they're clicking on your social media posts and opening your emails and taking a look at you and hitting your website. Maybe even you give them an opportunity to opt in for your email or e-newsletter or something like that. So think about, if you're in acquisition mode, what might be a goal for you? Certainly you'd like to gain some new donors, right? That's always a bonus. And then if you're in the renewal mode, meaning that you want to get inactive donors to give, that could be one goal that you might want to set. So take a look at your current or past donors, who are inactive, and maybe send them a very personalized email. Personalization is the key, by the way, to any appeal and fundraising you're doing. Sorry about my dog. She's real antsy today. So, and then, maybe you're in the upgrade mode where you want to get people to give more than they have. I always encourage nonprofits to be really robustly getting nonprofits are getting monthly donors for their nonprofits. So really focusing on getting regular, recurring monthly contributions is just the best money that you could raise. short of, getting $1 million to do whatever you want. That's an exaggeration, but getting regular monthly contributors is just a really great way to stabilize your organization, your funding. It's money that you can depend on to a great extent. You can budget around it. Certainly, you'll lose some donors throughout the year, but you can at least, count on a large portion of them sticking with you. Even a small monthly donor is a great way to start. You might even have part of your appeal focus on and tell the story of why you want monthly contributors and how much it helps your organization and the people that you serve. And then set a goal for the number of monthly recurring donors that you would like to attain during your end of year appeal. That's a really strong goal to have. You might set a goal for, I don't know, stuff like having people click on your website or connect with you on social media. Those are all worthy goals, right? It doesn't have to be just about the number of dollars that you raise, although you probably already have built in a number in your budget for revenue for your annual fund or unrestricted dollars, and you want to be able to raise that money to sort of get to that goal that you've already set. So those are some thoughts about setting goals. And then maybe set a theme. And it doesn't need to be a cutesy theme. It needs to be a genuine and authentic theme, right? So there's Sheri. Yay, you're saving me from myself. Hi, Sheri.
Hey. Hey, well, I guess Libby, everyone knows that this is truly live.
It really is. It really is. It's great. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Glad you're here. Super excited. You have so much to add to today. So we'll just kind of jump right in. I did an intro, but I'm super excited to introduce Sheri Chaney Jones, who I've known for quite a while, who's just a superstar in this field of, creating an impact-centric culture and why it's important to measure your impact. And so I'm very excited about having you on today. I'm a big fan, and we want to make this real and tangible for people too. So I'm going to jump right in and we'll get started chatting about this. So I remember the first time I met you, I think it was the Huntington Seeds of Care. Was that what it was called? Huntington
Seeds for Growth, I think.
Seeds for Growth. Yeah. Seeds of Caring is a nonprofit that I love. And you were speaking about outcomes and the importance of being clear on your outcomes. We often think in the nonprofit world about outcomes in a very compliance way, right? Mm-hmm. Like I have to report this to my funder. My funders want to know, what are the outcomes? What are the outcomes? That's become a very common theme around nonprofits. But it's more than that, right? Like talk a little bit about what it means to really be data driven in your mm-hmm. work and nonprofit work and why that's so important.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, your audience is obviously nonprofits. And when we think about why nonprofits exist and why they are even in business today, it's because they desire to change lives and change circumstances. So if we think about a for-profit business, they would never imagine trying to run, or if they did it, they wouldn't be very successful or in business for very long if they were not looking at their metrics that are aligned with their mission, which is typically revenues, profits for shareholders, growth, those types of things. But in the for-profit world, our mission is the change in lives and change in circumstances that we're having for our beneficiaries in the communities in which we serve. So the way I look at it and the way I see it is measuring outcomes and managing to your outcomes. We like to call it impact management at SureImpact, should be the way we think about our work and everything we do. So, I just see it as part of doing business because that's why we're in business. We're in business to change these circumstances for the people we serve. And if we're not measuring those, how do we know we're doing the best we can do? Or is there opportunities to scale and do better and create even greater impact?
Yeah, that's a great point. I've often said to people, like, if you don't know that you're really doing what your mission says that you do, why are you in business? Like, what are you,
Mhm.
you need to understand that. And you made the point more clearly than I ever did. I want to just take a second. I wanted to get a question and have you answer a question real quick just to engage people because since we're running behind. But I do
Mhm.
want to take a minute to just tell people a little bit about you. So Sheri started her company, Measurement Resources Company, one of her companies, in 2010, and it's just exploded. It's a national firm, and they work in this area of increasing capacity of nonprofit and the government sector organizations, just with drilling in with their data, helping them easily and regularly look at their data and really improve upon what they do. And she's certainly a thought leader in this public sector. She's also authored a book, Impact and Excellence, Data-Driven Strategies for Aligning Mission, Culture, and Performance in Nonprofit and Government Organizations. And she also does a lot of work around women's equity and the advancement of girls. And she's on some important committees and is the chapter president for the Columbus NABO chapter. And she's on the Columbus Women's Commission for the Mayor's Office. So, doing a lot of good work out there, not only in her day job, but also in her volunteer time, which I know is precious. So, we appreciate all that you're doing. Do you want to add anything to that? Do you want to talk about where people can connect with you a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're here on LinkedIn, so feel free to connect with me on my LinkedIn page, which is Sheri Chaney Jones. But you also can learn more about our two companies at SureImpact.com, which is a software platform that helps nonprofits better measure, track, and communicate their unique social impact. And then Measurement Resources Company is at measurementresourcesco.com, or just Google Measurement Resources. And it's an organizational development and research firm that helps you figure out what you should be measuring. And then once you figure that out, you can use SureImpact to automate that process for you.
Yeah, that's great. So, I've watched you over the years have this great company, Measurement Resources, and then realize, oh, this would be a lot easier for nonprofits to do if they had an application that would help them do this work. And so you started Sure Impact, which is fantastic. So, I'm going to ask you another question
Yeah.
now, that I think probably our audience wants to know, sort of what are the biggest data challenges that nonprofits face today? And then what are some best practices that nonprofits
Mhm.
can adopt, at least to get them started in
Mhm.
down this path of really understanding what their impact is? And hopefully, looking at a regular basis, kind of looking at their data and figuring out where to get better even.
Sure, absolutely. Well, I think probably the biggest data challenge right now is that nonprofits historically haven't been tracking the right data. And you mentioned I had authored a book, Impact and Excellence, and I did some significant research around the sector at that time to figure out what was getting in the way. And we heard what you would imagine, Libby. We heard things like not enough time, not enough money, not enough staff, not enough trained staff. And so back, when I published Impact and Excellence, the whole purpose was, well, we saw these were myths. They were perceptions. They were perceptions that it was too complicated or would take too much time or money or expertise. And so I wanted to kind of re-educate the nonprofit sector, and we can be really honest. Most people in the sector have gotten into the sector because they have giant hearts, which is why I love working in this sector, and they want to make a big difference. But maybe measurement, math, metrics isn't their first love, and that's okay. But we like to break it down and make it really simple, and I want to do that in this webinar as well today, and talk about how do we overcome this perception that it's too complicated to measure our impact and measure our outcomes. And I like to use regular words, not math words or evaluation words, and just use regular words. And really it comes down to measuring three things. What did you do? So who are you serving? What are their demographics? And what have you done with them? How well did you do it? So those are some sort of like, are you following up with surveys? Are you getting some of that qualitative data about their perceptions and experiences? their perception of cultural responsivity or timeliness, or the way your services are meeting their needs. And then the third is, how are people better off? And those are, what does that change, whether it's in attitude, knowledge, behavior, that you're desiring your interventions to do for those that you serve. And so you don't need a lot of measures. You just need, maybe, I always say 5 to 7. And so you think about, what did you do? How well did you do it? And how are people better off? And you want to make sure that data collection is in your regular course of business. That's how it makes it easy and useful. So as you're interacting with your beneficiaries, you're having your staff record, what are you doing with them? Have some check-in, like that feedback loop of getting some baseline data and some post data. That's a really, really high level overview. I understand the devil's in the details, but hopefully that kind of, those 3 chunks make your audience and those listening in today go, oh, okay, I get it, Sheri. I can measure those 3 things.
I love that. That's so simple. So can you repeat those 3 questions?
Yep.
And then how it would be an amazing exercise just in a staff meeting to ask, put those questions forth and just have a conversation.
Yeah. So the 3 questions again are what do we do? Meaning, that's the scary output word. What we do is just a count of the services you provide. So how many service hours, how many training hours, how many classes, how many case management hours, whatever it is you deliver, just what did you do, and describe who the people you serve are. The second question is, how well did we do it? And you can think of that as client experience or client satisfaction feedback back to you. And then the third is, how are people better off? And those are your outcomes.
Yeah.
So if you're struggling though with that third question, how are our people better off? And you're wondering, I don't know, what should I measure, or what is that? I have another series of questions. It's all about the questions. And that is asking yourselves, why does your nonprofit do what it does? Because that is essentially your outcomes. That's why you exist. So if you say to increase people's wages, you probably want to be measuring how well are you increasing their wages. If it's to reduce unhealthy days or increase days of wellness, maybe you probably should be tracking that for those that you serve. And so just asking yourself, why does our nonprofit do what it does? Looking at those answers to that question, and then asking yourself, well, how could we confirm that we truly are doing that? And that's essentially what an outcome is.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, we use these big terms and it sounds all fancy and stuff. And sometimes there's a kind of a word salad of things, right? Impact, outcome, measurement.
Yeah.
It's like there are so many more. But it really boils down to that, doesn't it? Like, what are we trying to do? What are we trying to help our clients achieve? Or what do we want to see in the end when all is said and done, as far as changes in people behavior, their conditions, or the community, or whatever it is? That's great. So how would a nonprofit use their data to be able to increase things like staff retention, which is critical right now, right? More critical than ever. Efficiency, and then community impact. You want to talk about each of those?
Yeah, well, one of the things, and again, I'm a very data-driven person as well. And so everything I'm speaking of, I actually have data to prove that it's true. So one of the things that I think would surprise people is that organizations who commit to measuring outcomes and have regular feedback back to their staff to show them how an individual contributor is moving the needle on these key outcomes. And I'll tell you, Libby, we built SureImpact to automate all of this for our users, but the organizations who commit to this and measuring outcomes, they actually have more engaged staff and they have better staff retention. And this is why, because those individuals who came to work for a nonprofit did so because they wanted to make a difference. I think it's not a secret that most people didn't come to the nonprofit field to be the next Bill Gates, but they are. Yeah, it's the passion, right? It's the passion for the work. It's the love for the work. It's the wanting to make a difference. So, and when they get feedback and showing them how they're making a difference, it's almost that anecdote to the overwhelm
Yeah.
that everyone is experiencing right now. But it's reminding them, it's reinforcing them that you are making a difference.
Yes.
And so that's how you kind of can help with morale, help with engagement. And then efficiency, we all don't want to be doing things that don't work.
Yeah.
And so those feedback loops and looking at outcomes data helps us know, well, should we stop doing things because those things really aren't driving the results that we want? Or should we actually be doubling down on certain things and investing more to those activities and outcomes? And so that's helpful for boards and leadership teams and even
Yes.
staff, because they don't want to be wasting their times on things that aren't making a difference. And then another key fact that's really, really important is that organizations who can prove their results, prove their outcomes, are 68% more likely to raise more money. Because they have the data to prove it. And so foundations, government funders, even private donors now we're seeing are more and more interested in what are the results of your work? What are your outcomes? So when you have that data with those anecdotal stories, it's like fuel to the fundraising efforts.
That's right. You appeal to people's hearts and their heads, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And which is important. Yeah, it's really demoralizing, to work as hard as nonprofit staff work and volunteers
Mm-hmm.
and not know if you're really making a difference or not. Just
Yeah.
go in every day and just work your heart out, and then not know.
Yeah.
Really is the opposite, right? It leads to burnout and frustration and things like that. So that's really great.
Yeah.
I love it. And so just talk a little bit about how they might use that data to raise more money. It's end of year appeal time, which I'm talking about a lot these days. And so, how might they use that data they're collecting to raise more money? You
Yeah.
talked about a little bit, but what specifically would you suggest?
Yeah. So I think my favorite annual reports are ones that include a few things. And that is when you think about those great anecdotal stories or case stories that, like you mentioned, they pull on the heartstrings, but then you can, like in that same vein, talk about how, if you have a great story about a mother who went through your services and is now stably housed and has a great wage job. And then you're able to say, and 85% of the individuals we serve were single moms who increased their income. Now, as a potential donor, I'm reading that and going, wow. So it's not just they have this great success story. That's how my money is going to be returned. I don't get a return, but I get this social return on investment.
Yes.
And really, to do that social return on investment calculation, an organization only needs a few key metrics. They need to know their success rate. So what's that clearly defined outcome, and what is that success rate for that outcome, and how much their total program costs. Because when they are able to do that, then you can start to talk about cost per success.
Yes.
And I know nonprofits are good sometimes about talking about, if you give us this much money, we can give, a kid a backpack or a pair of shoes. And that's a great story too. But just think about how powerful it is if you can tell your donors, for every even big ticket money, like every $5,000, we're getting one family stably housed and a stable income.
Yeah.
Okay, now donors know what they're buying when they pay, when they give you that $5,000. They can see how their money is being translated into bettering someone's life.
That's great. I love the notion of social return on investment, right? The SROI.
Yeah.
This is incredible, and we only have a couple more minutes. I'm happy to stay on if you are.
Yeah.
If
I've got all the time, Libby. We'll talk about this all day, every day.
It's great. I love it. Such a good topic. And, I've spent a lot of my career helping nonprofits define outcomes too. So it's really close to my heart. Using it is the key, right? Not just defining it, but using it. So what would you say? You gave those 3 questions, which were brilliant. And I sort of extrapolated, that'd be a great staff meeting. But you want to talk a little bit about how to, and this is out of sight of your questions that you posed. But, what about the board? Like I like to engage the board around stuff like this. And I do think that board get excited when you have numbers.
Mhm.
like this, because they are typically type A personalities and business people, and they are used to KPIs, and that's the world
Mhm.
they live in. And I think often they're wondering, like, what are we doing? Like, what are we actually achieving here? Talk a
Yeah.
little bit about that, about how to engage them around this.
Yeah, I think that the 5 whys exercise that I mentioned briefly early on is one of the best things an organization can do with their boards, because I do agree with you. Board members come on to nonprofit boards with their corporate experience. A lot of them come from the business world or their corporate world, and they're used to metrics and KPI. But where the education needs to come in with even corporate boards is because they're used to that, the financial metrics, that's where they live. And of course, nonprofits is a tax status, it's a business, they need revenue to thrive, but revenue for what sake, right? And in a for-profit model, the revenues of a for-profit and the impact of a for-profit are they're linked, right? Because if you are a successful for-profit, your customers buy again, they tell your friends, they become raving fans, and you stay in business. But in the nonprofit sense, the people who are benefited from your programs and services are not the people who pay. And we don't want to be in the sense that where you're generating a lot of revenue but you're not producing a lot of impact. And so that's where, when you meet with your boards and you say, here's our revenue dollars, but we need to make sure that we're measuring our mission alignment so we can tell our story about how we're creating impact so that we can go raise more money. It's all linked, right? It's all circular. So the best thing to do with your board is to do that 5 whys exercise
That's
and
great.
ask your board, why do you think our organization exists? Why do you think we do what we do? Why are you participating on this board? What are you hoping that our organization, what contributions we're making in the world? And then
Mhm.
once you have that kind of clarity is when you can start to put metrics to it.
Yeah, I like that exercise too, because, they need a why. Why are you
Mhm.
on the board? Because their
Yeah.
friends and family are gonna ask them, and their
Mhm.
acquaintances,
Yeah.
"Oh, yeah, I'm on this board." "Well, why are you on that board?" "Tell me about it." And
Yeah.
that helps them get clear on on their messaging in a really meaningful, compelling way to them. That's
Yeah,
really
absolutely.
nice. I love it. Cool. So we're going to close up here because we're already past time, and people count on that 30 minutes.
Sure.
But I'm so sorry for the mess up, not getting that information to you.
You'll
And
have to invite me back.
I want you back. I was just going to say, let's do part 2 here soon, because there's so much that we could talk about, and people are just soaking this up. And let's do it again soon. Get you
Absolutely.
back. All right. Well,
Always.
thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sheri.
Yeah,
Really
thank you.
appreciate your time and your expertise and your tidbits of information that people can take back and apply right away. It's especially helpful. Thanks for being here, everybody out there, and we'll see you next week.